Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the October 1st Education and Planning Committee meeting. And our first guest is our host, leader of our Viticulture Senate, Gina Lee. Gina?
Thank you, Donna.
We're delighted to be here.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to our little clubhouse. For you ladies that are privileged to go into the ladies' room, please only ladies' room. I'm just going to do a quick overview. We opened this facility, for those of you that might be new, in January of 2015. So we've been here, oh my gosh, 10 and a half years, which was crazy. Feels like it was just yesterday. And we're 9 months. It would not be the same if Paul didn't have voice, quite even a voice. Quick update on the program. We have 16 students right now currently in person. 2 of them are actually from out of state. 1 commutes back and forth from Rhode Island. And the other one transferred up here from Pennsylvania. We have 3 students that are online. And where are we going? Oh, so I want to thank Doctors Trustees and Urbatus for the international study program that we will be launching for the viticulture certificate for our vineyard internship students. So that is to begin in Sicily, the opportunity for them to travel there and do their 5-credit internship next summer. 22nd. Really, really cool. And I have to go make sure it's okay. I was busy. So.
I would have done it, but I'm booked already.
I do want to, can you pull it up? Yep. We have launched a contract with a social media personnel. He is actually the marketing person from Fox Run Vineyard, so he's very familiar with the wine industry. He has been creating short videos that go onto Facebook, TikTok, and our Instagram accounts. So this is a short video from, and they're all of our graduates. So Angie is the assistant winemaker at Fox Run Vineyards.
Check your ego at the door. It doesn't matter where you are headed, whether it's the workplace or a blind tasting or a panel or even a wine bar. Just be quiet, listen, throw away what you know isn't right and take away something that you learned that is new. If you're curious, fact check them, of course, always, but just pipe down for a minute. It's really, really important to, even after you graduate, never stop being a student and always listen, always learn, and apply at FLCC.
It's how it is. She's a feisty little girl, I can say that. So, but it was wonderful that she, actually, that they've all been very willing to do. They've all been willing to make the videos for us. And I want to get to the Piece de Resistance, the 2025 New York Wine Classic. We entered our 2023 Fresca Leyenda, which has the label from the Colombian student that came up here for school. Our PetNet went gold and best in class. And we haven't had a wine that won a gold and best in anything since 2016. And that was actually our first entrance. Our Vino Blanco, which you'll be tasting this afternoon, went silver. Our Rosé was silver, and our Blanc Franc was silver, and you'll be tasting that too. So, and then Paul has a short little announcement.
Yeah, I don't want to get in Gina's way, but as many of you know, I left, and then I was asked to come back, and now I'm fully back in the meantime. And I just wanted to say that the warm reception that I got when I came back obviously went into my decision to stay back and become full-time, indefinitely at this point. But it was it's been a really great experience being back at the college. I never left because I didn't love what I did here. I left for other reasons, and it's really great to be back. And it's always great to have everybody here, especially in the middle of Harvest when everything is like happening. So we'll have, by the time you guys are done, we'll have students working and actually making lines, so you guys can peek in and see what that looks like too. So just wanted to thank the college for the opportunity to be back. So I was told that nobody ever leaves and then comes back. So I'm that person.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Good to Paul and Gina. So our first order of business is to review our committee minutes from the September meeting. Does anyone have any comments about the minutes? All right. Do we need to approve?
No.
No, all right, very good. On to Dr. Avedis for our enrollment report update.
Good afternoon, everyone. It must be a beautiful day, October 1st. So I will share the fall enrollment update as of September 26th, last Friday. What's in your packet was from September 19th. So as of the 26th, enrollment excluding Gemini and non-credit state aidable is up 3.1% and FTE is up 2.7%. When including Gemini and non-credit state aidable, enrollment is up 27.9% headcount and FTE is up 18.2%. Now I want to clarify why that might be. Dual enrollment, concurrent enrollment has implemented new software called Kanuja to facilitate online registration for our Gemini students. So in the past, Gemini registrations were processed manually by the One Stop Center, which took over a period of time from September to November. So we are now seeing a much more rapid registration process using Kanuja, which reflects the numbers for dual enrollment Gemini. Any questions about this? I also included in your packet enrollment shift trend summary that reflects new students and continuing students transition from full-time to part-time over the past 3 years. And you will see, I cited some trends. Our new student, our percent of full-time new students is declining each year. And our percent of part-time enrollment in new students is increasing. And similarly for continuing students, we're seeing a transition from full-time to part-time. We saw a significant transition this fall from spring 25 to fall 25. And we attribute that to SUNY Reconnect. Students who may have been enrolled in the spring who are now moving into SUNY Reconnect degree programs. It also may reflect students who are balancing multiple priorities and enrolling in career programs. And I know that APCI for the fall 25 enrollment report will be taking a deeper dive on these trends. So stay tuned for more. Any questions? George?
This trend with part-time, trying to look forward into the future, how's it changing what you're doing in your department? What stresses it putting on it? And probably for the other folks in the room, how does this impact the college? Because this is a significant change. There are different types of students. There's more. They've got all kinds of different demands.
Yes.
How are we what do we have to do in the future to get where we need to be to accommodate these students?
So we have a SUNY Reconnect work group that has been meeting since May to review our current processes in support of adult students. We are discovering very quickly that most processes that we have in place serve traditional age students and do not necessarily serve adult students as well as we could. So we are looking at onboarding changes, communication strategies, particularly focused on adult learners, but also in regard to the other piece of your question, what does this mean for enrollment management's work? So for the loss of one full-time student that we don't recruit, we have to seek to recoup those FTEs by recruiting 3 part-time students.
They're in a different place.
They're in a different place, right? And as I said, they have many priorities they are balancing that we need to be aware of and be supportive of. We will also be doing this fall an adult student focus group study and working with Karen Fisher, who is director of APCI. The study is a follow-up to an adult learner survey we did this past summer for adults ages 25 and older who were enrolled in the spring of 25. We had over 100 participants complete the survey, and now we are following up to collect qualitative data in addition to the quantitative data to help inform decisions in terms of how to support them.
And just with, just with their further conversation in the future, the board is really looking toward 5 years down the road or beyond. You know, what actions are we taking? We certainly, as this is changing, we don't want to lose those students. Everyone shot it. So someone.
You had mentioned the one full-time FTE. Generally speaking, you had to pick up 3 part-time.
2 to 3, depending on credit hour enrollment.
Yes, part of my question goes to if that's the trend that we're going to look at future, then how do we maintain that ratio? You know,
Good question.
and then does that have any impact on the longer-term trend in terms of the revenue stream that comes to the college and the FTEs? Just maybe.
If you're replacing on a 2-to-1 ratio, it won't, because that will still equal.
Keep the ratio.
Keep the ratio the same, it's fine, but if you start losing,
Right.
only gaining 1.5 part-timers or whatever, the full-time, then you're gonna start losing some of that tuition revenue, and as well as chargeback revenue, but if you keep that ratio, you're okay, but if that starts to decrease, then that's when you're gonna lose your slope stream.
I know it'll change from year to year, but generally speaking, you sort of know what our target's gonna be.
Yeah. And then I think, you know, as you start looking at, if more people come as part-time, how does that affect classroom sizes or, you know, how many classes do you have? And because heads are important too, when you look at your classroom. So, you know, how are we running those sections and what do those look like? So.
It's a policy question too, because the policy is created around FTE, but education happens to human heads. So that tension exists in a new way when we see this trend. And then also from a data perspective, as Dr. Urbatus was highlighting, the shift within credits makes a difference, whereas a full-time student is a full-time student at 12 credit hours or above done. That is not the same. So when you're looking at part-time, you might have a part-time student who's at 6 credit hours one semester, and there's a financial as well as educational impact for those 6 credit hours. They're at 9 credit hours the next, and that plays out much more substantially in part-time than it does in full-time, particularly because of the the policy for, how our aid is calculated from the state.
FTE is a bad metric for us. It doesn't make any sense. We can't give students service.
That's right.
Right.
Correct.
That's the service.
That's that tension.
That's an excellent point.
Couple of things, what you asked, and we didn't get to part of it. It was important in terms of one of the things that Dr. Ortiz and her team are doing in terms of the different modalities to meet those needs. So there's 7 modalities. I don't know if Flo would like to talk about that, but you also have student affairs in here and you have faculty in here. And what your thoughts are, if you have any, of how the change from part-time is impacting you all. And it's great for you all to tell the board what you're seeing.
Please. If you would introduce yourself, please.
I wish I knew who I was. My name is Michael Van Etten. I'm a faculty member of the Humanities Department. I'm working on a project with athletics right now. But I spend a lot of time with our students outside of the classroom. And in the classroom and everywhere else in between. Our students are coming to us burdened more than ever. And I started teaching here in 2018. I'm a graduate from here in 02, 03. It gets a little fuzzy. But now more than ever, I used to have students that would come in, be full-time, maybe work 4, maybe 8 hours on the side, or just get a job on campus. Today, my students come to me with problems that would have been unimaginable 10 years ago. They're working 20 hours, 30 hours, and supporting their homes, and trying to find a place to live, and trying to find food. Issues that could have been easily remediated by additional student support services in the past. Things that were anomalies are now the norm. Now it's shocking almost to have students that aren't dealing with 3, 4, 5 of these at once. So the shift makes perfect sense to me. The shift away from full-time residential makes sense at this point because our students are coming through the door with so much on their plate that a traditional standard full-time academic load with the ability to do other extracurriculars on the side is now a luxury. It's become rare.
There's,
Well spoken.
yes, and I mean, just overall across academic and student affairs, there are huge implications on how we are scheduling our courses, the modalities, making sure that we are increasing flexibility. Scheduling courses, we're coming into an academic momentum campaign, right? How can we facilitate schedules and modalities and our services in a way to wrap these folks up regardless of their status? So we are actively engaging in that work now.
Will that work include scheduling at hours that are non-traditional?
Yes, so as part of SUNY Reconnect, this fall, we launched an adult-centered, a Reconnect-centered schedule on evenings and Saturdays, which have really become almost non-existent in the past few. I don't have the history, but in fact, Milton, who is here, is the one who did the study to see what were the common courses to the 15 SUNY Reconnect programs that most students would need. And then we offered those evenings and Saturdays in the most flexible modality possible while still maintaining the integrity of instruction for that discipline. So we are carrying that through, and we've had multiple conversations with Reconnect about multiple start dates you know, the term lengths, a lot of different ways to accommodate this population that demands flexibility and extreme responsiveness.
Is there potential, if we see results from this, to expand those non-traditional class hours to programs outside SUNY Reconnect?
Absolutely. And the good news is that the ones that are being implemented right now really do have broad reaching. I mean, it is the gen eds. It's maybe a little heavier in computing science than it would be otherwise, but the English and the comm and the psych and the soc is being offered.
Anyone else have comments or questions?
I would just share just one anecdote. I teach a Tuesday, Thursday, 9:30 class, and I have a couple of adult students in there. And one of the adult students at the end of class just asked the question, sort of to me, but also to herself, about whether or not she should even be here. And I think it was an interesting, kind of opportunity to have a conversation about why she was here and what her goals were. And she was attempting to leave one profession and move into another. And I don't know whether or not she was a SUNY Reconnect student or not, but it was clear to me that, she was having this question with herself, right? Should she be doing this? She's leaving kids at home, or kids are in school. She's working in a career, but also is trying to explore another avenue for her, because she does not feel fulfilled in her current occupation. So it was an interesting conversation, and at times now I stop and think about how I even approach the class and whether or not my own policies and flexibility, and how more flexible can I be as I approach teaching more and more adult students, especially those who are part-time. So I think as we encounter those students, I think we're going to probably see shifts in our own approach as individual instructors.
Anyone else? Dr. Urbatus? Thank you. Thank you. New student orientation, supporting student success. Brandon, please join us.
I was smiling in the back a little bit too much, only because my first line to say to all of you is, we offer orientation through multiple modalities. So our new models went back there, I'm like, yes, I could have said this more perfect if I tried. So while this is coming up, I have time myself. I should be right at 5 minutes, but of course, if there's any questions, more than welcome to answer them as we go along. So first of all, welcome to New Student Orientation. Very excited to be able to talk about this. We really looked at our program and services. The traditional, we offer multiple days. Students come to us. We offer the best type of program, and they are on their way. Those days are gone. We have worked throughout, since I've been here since 2013. We were ahead of the game. We actually had an online orientation before the pandemic. So when that happened, it was a catch-all for us. And that was more of a, if a student couldn't come to us in person, we had our online orientation as a, okay, if you couldn't be here, here's this program. It has now become kind of our first introduction to the college. So when we look at orientation events, we actually redesigned and launched our online orientation on June 1st. Leading into our in-person campus center welcome events, then open houses to allow students to come and see all of our campus centers, as well as main campus, and even a special nursing orientation. To showcase the diversity in our content delivery, we curated an online orientation that was asynchronous content, hosted 2 synchronous WebEx live orientation sessions with campus service area and faculty representatives, and even a live orientation catch-up event after classes started, which was new for us. We didn't have a ton of students that came, but those who did, their questions were absolutely 100% within the adult learner model. And it was really great to kind of hear their questions and how to guide them. This model provided flexibility, accessibility for all students. Online orientation at a glance, please note this information is as of June 1st through September 3rd. Our online program reached over 56,000 content views, which means they opened it, they closed it, maybe they went back, maybe they questioned some things. We enrolled 1,152 new learners and achieved an 87% completion rate. For 2-year public institutions, that hovers around about 20 to 60% of those institutions who report, because a lot of non-mandatory orientation programs actually don't report those numbers. And that's actually higher than the national average for innovative educators, which is our online platform. We're actually in their top 10 for completion rates of the 130 plus institutions they serve and support. This shows the strong student engagement within this new model. Some in-person show rates, because folks kind of like to know all of those things. Students were not passive participants in orientation. They actively engaged. They asked thoughtful questions and shared resources, exchanged contact information, started forming relationships before classes even began. So as you can see, our show rates are really good. Main campus, 87% for non-mandatory. They could sign up for 2 different options, and we were there with maps and guides around campus, but it was at their own leisure with a multitude of time slot open to allow that flexibility to either come, get the services they needed and wanted, and then were on their way. And I do want to just point out, because again, nursing is really special, they had 100% show rate for their RN orientation and a 93% of their LPN. Those are astounding numbers. So shout out again to the nursing for the communication and getting that out there as well. So why does this matter? Orientation is not a single day. It is a foundation for student success at FLCC. This multi-pronged approach ensures that accessibility and flexibility are at the heart of the program that we offer, welcoming them to the college. Research shows that inclusive, continuous, and accessible orientation experiences lead to stronger GPA, higher retention, and sturdier sense of belonging. By meeting students where they are, we ensure that engagement is getting them the access that they need to form from day one. Students are seeking connection over content. Data always is about content. I wouldn't get Deb over there. But one of the things that we noticed this time through, which was really interesting, and I know Dr. Nye was there for this too, there's a palpable shift in the energy and the engagement of our newly oriented students. One that speaks not only to their readiness for academic life, but their deeper desire for connection and community and purpose. During our live orientation sessions, students were not passively just listening on their screens. They started sharing information of resources they learned from either online orientation, or they were even going on our website while our session was going on, being like, oh, you want to talk to someone in the library? Here's that phone number. The chat was something I had never seen before. Dr. I was giving questions, he's answering, oh, that's really great, let me help you get there. It's things I had never really seen in terms of students having knowledge and excited to share with their peers on this. So they were asking thoughtful questions, they were building rapport with one another, and many exchanged actually contact information. They did it just to stay connected after that orientation session was over. The sense of community carried seamlessly into our week of welcome events. At our kickoff welcome program of breakfast on the go, students walk in the door, they're offered breakfast. Dr. Ortiz really helped with the huge kickoff of getting faculty, staff, volunteers with balloons and music and a bunch of ways. So when students were walking in the door, it was this overwhelming sense of community. But what was happening was students that had seen each other on the orientation sessions were actually meeting at the breakfast on the go for the first time. And it was like watching people that had been like lifelong friends, but like they saw only this much of themselves coming in and being like, oh, how are you? And it was fun to be kind of in the background watching these things happen. And they were meeting face to face, they were recognizing each other in person. The bonds absolutely bridged the digital and physical campus experience. And this is what happens when orientation has an opportunity to have many touch points for students on their journey to create not only programs, but connections that foster that engagement. I can say that, I've been using this phrase over and over again, but I can't stop saying it, is that this does not happen without partnerships across campus. It's everything from our financial aid office to our one-stop, to our housing office, to our faculty, to all of the various offices. And I have to tell you, I was also down, Andrea Brown, our assistant director, who primarily oversees this, was out on maternity leave. So our part-time person stepped up and was handling our online piece while we were also doing these different modalities. And so when I tell you, it really does take a village to onboard our students, but what a village we have. It really, really has been an impressive thing when we're reaching out to these students in different ways. So I will continue to say that. It's something I'm really proud of that's been built across the board. But to our students, they don't see any different. And so the fact that we can all come together in this way has been really impactful. So that's my presentation. Is there any questions? Yes, sir. I'd be shocked if you didn't know. Just kidding.
And first of all, I want to also, thank you for the work you do with the student court and that organization. I know they do a lot of activities to help support this, so they're part of the village. And they bring a lot to it. A lot of the stuff going, I remember learning in the student court last year that you had actually presented on this at a meeting somewhere for people like you who do this kind of thing, but it sounds like we're way ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Not that
It's great.
we may not be ahead of the wave, but we're ahead of the curve. So, which is really, really great. Can you elaborate on what you kind of heard from that?
I mean, I don't like speaking on data if I don't have it in front of me, but I think it really does start from, we know what the trends are, like you guys just talked about it in terms of enrollment. We now know adult students are going to be coming to us more because we're creating those opportunities to not discuss that and somewhat plan for it. In all the ways that we're serving our students, I think is really important. One of the big things, and I'm going to give a nod to your student trustee who was online, really helped us form a fully online student leader who now connects with students online in different ways. It's our first year of doing it. And we now have an online student group that's going to be called Legal Lens Society, where they're going over true crime cases. And it's led by an adjunct because that gives the flexibility of them to participate more. Being in person is really hard. But to make it at their own time in an hour that works for them is just shifting and adjusting that really allows us to make that happen in ways that people are open. But the beauty of this is also creating the opportunity and asking. So the students bring forward things, what our needs are, and if we can shift and do, we're able to. But it comes from everywhere. Like it comes from that top down of saying, hey, by the way, heads up, 2 years out, 3 years out, this is what the land looks like. So the more we talk about it, I think people try to catch the wave after because spending dollars means a lot, right? But if we have the flexibility of trying and testing in a small pool to say, what does that yield and does it make an impact? We just ran our first gen program asking for volunteers because I didn't know what this was going to look like. We had 63 students sign up on their own and I had 47 faculty and staff volunteers saying, yes, I want to make this connection in the first 2 weeks. That tells me there's something there long-term that we have to do something with. I don't have that data for you right now, but we're listening and we're in a space that allows us to test those out and try it out and see what happens and listen to our students, which I think is a beautiful thing and that's not everywhere. So I hope that answers that question.
Any other questions or comments for Deb? I just have one. You are obviously thinking ahead. What do you see as the challenges that you're going to have to face?
Dr. Ortiz,
Right.
Two things. Again, if we don't continue to offer not just an area service in a multitude of ways, our students don't see that breakup of service, right? Whether it's housing, student life, in the classroom, outside the classroom, that is the FLCC experience to them. And so if we're offering things in these ways, I think we have to back that up. So what do I see that's coming is if it means something to us, it means something to them. If we have people that, like the fact that all of our faculty are there, on the first day of orientation. They see them, they break out, and they know that potentially this person's gonna be there, that now becomes their person. So I think the trend that I'm seeing is making those connections early, often, and consistently. So I'm hoping down the road when we see our first gen connections that were made in the fall, how many of those students are still talking to those same people from second semester? And they may or may not be their faculty or somebody they would normally ever come in contact with. But I think the trend is if they can find that someone or that place to go, that becomes a really important thing when navigating any waters that we're gonna be in. So I think we have to think about it, not just, hey, we're the best at this, but here, we're the best at this, and here's who you go to for that. Here's who you connect to on that. And if you don't know where to connect, here's that place to go to. I think we tend to want the journey to be their own. It used to be, come to us, we'll help you out on that journey. I think we have to guide them more, but give them the opportunities to walk the path. Like it's almost show them the way, but show them the path, not the way. That helps.
Thank you. On to our resolutions, Jennifer Parsons.
Tonight, we just have one position, which is the office manager to the nursing department, and this is an upgraded position from an office specialist 1, and it was upgraded due to increased demands within the nursing department, and it remains within the CSCA.
Any question? And the additional resolution that we have here, the anti-bullying policy, is there anything that you or you're feeling good? Does anyone have any questions for either of them regarding the policies? All right, well, thank you very much for attending. Thank you. We are ready for our strategic thought presentation. So Wilton Johnson, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Ashley. This is great to extend a conversation that we began in the spring. So today, I just wanted to give you an update on some of the care governance goals, specifically with Academic Senate. Academic Senate, as with past years, is going to be undertaking a review of our courses, particularly because of SUNY Gen Ed changes. So the SUNY Gen Ed framework changes this year that we need to address are tied to the learning competencies associated with both information literacy with a new focus on AI, but also our civic discourse. We've already made good strides in terms of civic discourse by identifying key courses that are within the curriculum of every program to be able to say that we do have at least one touch point. We're certainly going to be exploring additional touch points as well. U.S. history is an example. We've also in the process now of redefining our information literacy outcome. This is, if you're familiar with our learning framework, this is defined in our learning framework as an FLCC definition that crosswalks to SUNY's definition. So we are in the process of recrosswalking our definition back to the SUNY new definition with the AI component. So that is going to touch every single program. So every single program is going to go through program back through our revision process to assessment through curriculum and back through Senate. Some of this will be easier now that we've identified key courses and touch points within programs, so it should be fairly simple. But information literacy is going to be more of a challenge because we need to spend some more time looking specifically at where those outcomes currently exist. We have some programs that are relying upon multiple courses to hit all the outcomes, whereas we have some individual courses that cover them all, but we need to make sure that they're just touching each of those outcomes in each of those programs. So it's quite the undertaking. We have to get this through our approval process and meet compliance with fall 2026 with SUNY's goal. So we're pretty confident we'll be able to do this. This has sort of been the process now for the last couple of years. That's really the larger curricular changes. Now, in terms of new programs and revisions, we are also in the process of a new program, esports. Michael is here. You met him a little earlier. Michael has is in the process of writing a new program, and that program is targeted for a start in fall 2026. We're through the assessment process, writing the plan, that's been done. We're still working through the curriculum process now, and that's gonna hopefully arrive later this semester. We also have a revision of an existing program that was initially discontinued or sunset, but we are revitalizing it to meet the objectives, both set aside for innovation, but also looking at the possible connections with the Micron facility that is being built. So our Mech Tech program is being revised to a robotics and manufacturing technology program. We have an adjunct from RIT who was an adjunct in the program, who has been retooling the courses, and that is on its way through the curricular process now. They are just starting the assessment process. It's a little bit behind the curve, but we're looking to try to have this out the door as early as January of 2026, which should still be within the window of 3 years since we initially had discontinued the program. So those are two of the sort of the curricular aspects. In terms of policies, which we do address policies periodically, those issues that come up with concerns that are raised because a policy either doesn't read clear or it's interpreted multiple different ways. One current policy that we are exploring is our credit and contact hour policy. This policy addresses how we assign credits for number of contacts. It's a little vague in terms of contact hours and how contact hours are both calculated but also assigned. So we're in the process of reviewing this with a goal of creating a clearer policy that will allow us to do an audit. Some concerns were raised relative to courses that don't seem to have the same amount of contact hours relative to seat time compared to how many credits they're earned. It's a bit more complicated when you think about contact hours because students don't only just sit in a classroom. They might have workshops, they might have field work, they might have other things. And so just clarifying that for folks so that they understand, okay, yeah, it's 4 credit hours and it may only be meeting for 3 seat hours, but there is all this expectation that goes on outside of that. So how well we document that in our curriculum process is going to be an important part as we move forward. Some of the paperwork is 20, 30 years of courses that have existed, but yet here's that question today where someone says, well, I don't know. And so we have to go back and make sure that we're documenting all that clearly. So those are curricular issues, but also policy issues. And I would say that in terms of just with the learning framework, and this builds on our SUNY changes. So with our SUNY changes, we also now need to revisit our learning framework. This is FLCC's attempt to say, well, what is an FLCC degree apart from a GCC or MCC or any of our neighboring community colleges? So we developed a learning framework several years ago to try to articulate to ourselves and to students and to the public, what is an FLCC degree? And so part of this is 10 years old now, and a lot of faculty are starting to look and saying, okay, we're 10 years down the road now. Is this still what we want to define as an FLCC degree, given everything that's moving on and moving forward outside of the campus itself and outside of the classroom? So we are looking at revising that learning framework with the goal of not only addressing the recent SUNY changes to DEI/SJ inclusion as a knowledge and framework, our knowledge and learning skill area, but also our competencies, and then also rethinking how we even talk about it within our campus itself and outside to our stakeholders. So we're anticipating that's going to really kick off in the spring. We've identified 2 co-chairs now at this point, and pending approval, we should be able to move forward with that coming in the spring. So that's sort of a look ahead. I'm hoping that when we meet again in May, or prior in conversations in the hallway, we'll be able to report some progress on all of those initiatives.
Any questions or comments?
Blows my mind how much.
It goes to the floor, yeah.
I'm just trying to envision all that you said and actually getting that accomplished because it's daunting. One big buzzword is AI, and how is that influencing both how you're looking at the policies and curriculum? And on the other side, is it a tool that you can use to help guide you or develop some of those? Just AI in general, how does that affect your work?
Yeah, AI is certainly in the classroom. It's influenced the way that I even think about how I talk about AI in the classroom and even in my classroom policies, whether or not in some classes I encourage students to use it, but I really narrow down what I want them to be able to use AI for and how to use it. And so there's that aspect of it. And so I've seen in specific courses a very tailored look at how AI is incorporated. In terms of policy, AI policy, we have a draft at one point, but our think tank is sort of still working through, and we haven't really kind of come back to that AI policy as it relates to maybe a broader, more holistic look at AI and how it's used. So I imagine that is kind of going to come, but I'm not seeing that right now as a kind of a drive, a push. In terms of how AI has helped write policy or even think about policy, and I think that's sometimes useful just to pressure test some of the language. I've used specifically AI to pressure test some of the language and asking it questions about what might I be missing here or what might be unclear. And so some of that has helped be useful to just clarify some of that language. Does that?
Yeah, no, it's great. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Anyone else?
And I just have to say that it's not just, shared governance is certainly it's a small group of people who are kind of helping to lead it, but all the faculty will be pulling in the same direction around a lot of the tasks that I just described. So that's the good thing, is that there are people who are willing to assist and help out, and that's really, I think, is going to make it palatable and at least something we can achieve.
We appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Bill, what does Academic Senate see as maybe the biggest challenge they're going to be facing?
Well, I mean, obviously the road ahead for this particular year is a challenge, but I think looking long-term, I think we have to also consider, as I described earlier, the flexibility. I think as the college continues to change in terms of its enrollment, we also need to stop and rethink how we are approaching our individual class instruction and what Senate can do to try to coalesce that narrative so that we're all at least on the same page. An example of this would be our current course outline template, which we have language that is built into our template so that every course syllabus or syllabi is presented to students with the same sort of language. And so I think the challenge, of course, is with anything, when you've got that many different viewpoints and fields of experience coming into that, trying to define and come up with a shared set of not only requirements, language, it's tough. So that's always a challenge. That's probably right now what's on the back of my mind, making sure that we're all, even though we know we're pulling in the same direction, that we're all on the same beat, right? And that's sometimes important as well.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Well, I look forward to seeing you in the spring.
Okay. Yeah, and hopefully sooner.
Thank you. Thanks, Paul. Thank you.
Jocelyn Bush, welcome. Thank you. Jocelyn's going to address the college council goals.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here again. I would just like to echo Milt's sentiments that thank you for inviting us back so we can give an update, and hopefully in the May meeting, we'll come full circle. So the goals will be met. So the big goal of College Council, you may remember what I mentioned in the May meeting, we formed the Governance Assessment Committee, and they were tasked to design a governance assessment procedure and rubric, which was completed. Identify, organize, and assess the current governance bodies and committees, which they're currently in the process of doing. Review the current governance constitution to assess its effectiveness in guiding the shared governance process, and to identify any areas where the constitution may need to be amended. And they're hoping to get that done by the spring of 26. They also are tasked with examining the relationships between the governance bodies, the bargaining units, and the operational units to ensure that they are clear, efficient, and productive. And report the findings of the assessment piece to College Council with recommendations to help better align the shared governance process with the Constitution and propose any amendments to the Constitution to codify the current processes if necessary. So they did the governance assessment procedure and rubric. They did send out a survey, and based on the results of that survey, they came up with some goals of their own. So they want to address the need for regular training opportunities for governance representatives and work to improve consistency in information sharing. Again, review the Constitution and make recommendations if necessary. Examine the relationships to make sure communication is clear, efficient, and productive. Identify, organize, and assess the current governance bodies and operational committees, the task forces. Their hope is to reduce the duplication of efforts and improve the flow of communication, and also work to increase information sharing and build connections between members of the governance bodies and the Board of Trustees, which that goal is pretty much met because you invited Milt and I here tonight to keep you updated on what we're doing. So that's the big happening with College Council at the moment. There are a few other goals that we have. So review any policies presented in the fall semester and have resolution by the end of the academic year. We want to try to shorten and have a better process for those policies. AI, again, Bill talked a little bit about AI, but it affects council as well. So any policies that come through council, we want to make sure we take a look at them. And we also want to keep accessibility at the forefront of what we do. So Title II, we want to make sure everything's accessible to our students. We have the April deadline. So for each of our council meetings, we added Ed Kelty as our IT officer to give us updates and to help guide us through that process.
Any questions for Joe? I would ask the same question that we
Absolutely.
Bill. What challenges or challenge do you see ahead for College Council?
The biggest challenge I can foresee is communication. Communication keeps everything flowing. That's why we have the Governance Assessment Committee, because we want to improve that communication throughout the college. And communication's two-way, so if it's just one way, we're not going to get anywhere. So that's what I think the biggest challenge will be.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here. And turn this over to Dr. Montino and Dr. Covington for 8 Ways to Great.
Good afternoon.
Very good afternoon.
So some of you may know that my doctoral dissertation was, I did a phenomenological analysis of Division III student athlete transition out of college. And with that being said, part of that is going to be student athlete development. Conversation with the president, and we ended up having a conversation in athletics to see what things we can do to support our student athlete development. And we came up with 8 ways to grade. Next slide, show. In regards to the standard of excellence, I have some information. I don't want to be too redundant. Why this matters, long story short, is to help you build a foundation in regards to our student athlete development program. I'll go ahead, Cheryl. We aligned what we're doing with NJCAA values, which once again reinforces opportunity, accountability, and excellence. And the mission is to promote and foster 2-year college athletics and student athlete teams. Once again, in regards to my dissertation, which is M1 FLCC, I specifically focused on Division III student athletes. For those of you who are not familiar with Nancy K. Slotsberg, that was a theoretical foundation for my dissertation. And long story short, she has something called the student transition model. The student transition model includes moving in, moving through, and moving out. Moving in is going to be anything relevant to students onboarding to a higher education institution. So that's going to be orientation, register for classes, etc. Moving through, this would be most pertinent to, is going to be the student experience while at the academic institution. And moving out is going to be everything transitioning out of the higher education institution, graduation, career services, etc. Next slide. So I don't want to take all the thunder from my colleagues. Once again, we also aligned what we're doing with SUNY's commitment, in regards to supporting SUNY's commitment to campus pride, community engagement, and lifelong learning. One of the things I'm very happy to share with all of you right now is that right now for soccer, we're number 2, right, in the country. So that's a big deal for athletics. But I'm going to give it to my colleagues, Sam and Michael, to give you a little bit more detail about 8 weeks to rate. You're welcome.
Hi everyone, I'm Samantha Buxton, I'm the Director of Athletics. Okay, so I'm happy to share kind of some historical context as how we got to this point. So prior to the pandemic, we participated in a program called Winning Character, focusing on character development. After the pandemic, and as we kind of seen the pandemic, the curriculum was getting a little bit outdated, and we thought, well, maybe we can develop something that's ours. And that's specific to our student athletes and our college values. So pandemic hit, a couple of years after the pandemic, we had to basically spend time to restructure our athletic programs. Whenever we miss a season, whenever we don't have, the privilege of participating, it gives coaches, programs a long time to rebuild from that error. Because their recruiting cycle's off, they have to reestablish our programs. Some of our programs lost typically a season and a half due to the pandemic, which again, it's basically, think about having to recruit an entire new team, because that's what we had to go through. And everybody and all of our colleagues and so on and so forth. So we really kind of got our programs back into shape coming out of that experience, got our day-to-day operations back to what the new normal was. I know that everybody thinks that that phrase is, but it's definitely a thing for sure. And how we operate and what the changes that we had to make. So, and as we got to kind of having a self-assessment of our programs, we realized that the student athlete has changed a little bit as well. We just kind of talked about in the opening session about part-time students, what kind of students are faced with in this higher education environment. We see that also with our student athletes. Our student athletes have jobs. Our student athletes are juggling, taking care of siblings. Our student athletes are juggling classes and how to get to practices and all of these other different things. So they're coming in with a lot of challenges, and as athletic administrators, how can we help them so they can have the Division III student athlete experience, so they can participate in the sport, but also be able to do all of the other things that they want to do during their college experience. So we had all kinds of different programs. We had athletic orientation, we had peer mentoring program. Michael has his esports reboot and had a curriculum in there, and we thought, let's combine into one program that brings things into those different principles of those various other programs and make it one and make it ours. And this is kind of how we got here. So, and it's something that is, I'm going to just fly through it, but kind of taking some general principles of what we thought was important and relating it back to our college values. This idea of grit, this idea of responsibility, excellence, aptitude, and teamwork. And those were kind of the big areas that we wanted to focus on. But for something like this to really be successful, I think it's really important to have buy-in from the coaches, from your student athletes, and from the athletic staff to be able, so this doesn't come off to students as something else that we have to do on top of everything else that they're doing. So this past summer, we surveyed the coaches into areas that they thought that what could really help their individual programs. And I think it's also important to mention that this is not a one-size-fits-all approach. This is what the soccer team needs might be very different than what the volleyball team needs. What the cross-country team needs might be very different than what the baseball team needs. And this is in terms of what the coaches feel are important principles that we can reiterate into these sessions. So we kind of structure it around that idea. And that, in the beginning of this program, this program is happening currently. We're doing kind of a soft launch right now. We have 48 student athletes currently in the program for our fall seasons. So we kind of got input from the coaches, then we got input from the students. Because again, we needed to make sure that their voice was heard in terms of have they had any type of leadership training in the past, what they think would be helpful. You learn all of these different principles in athletics. We say we learn how to teamwork, we say we learn how to overcome adversity, we know how to time manage, we know how to get back at 11, 12 o'clock at night and then be at the 8 a.m. class the next day. But what are we doing with those experiences? And so we're trying to put them into real life practice to help them kind of translate them into their day-to-day operations as a student, growing as a person. And we're getting their input onto what other topics that they would have liked, that they would like to see in these sessions. So we had the coaches, we had the student athletes, and we had the athletic staff in terms of these 5 areas, and then we related them to our college values. And these are something that, is definitely ours, and it's something that we've kind of created into an 8-week session, and it's 8 weeks because that's about how long the competitive season is for our teams. It's a lot easier to get them engaged during their competitive season. This is also something that we bring to them. And I mean that in terms of, we just had a conversation about the different ways in which modalities might go later at night or on the weekends. We're seeing the same trends of our student athletes. We have these sessions 5, 6, 7 o'clock and on the weekends, because that is when you see them. That's when they're around their practice times. That's when they're around their game times. Our coach buy-in is when they give us a half an hour to do these sessions. And that is part of their experience for the day, once a week. So that is the 8, and the 8 to 3. And hopefully, we think about if they can just remember one word or one thing that we talked about and maybe utilize it in their day-to-day, their daily life and day-to-day personal growth, that's a win for us. And this also, I think, gives us a pipeline that for a little bit of different lens from an athletic administrator into coming to us as part of, we talk a lot about here at FLCC, the support network. And everybody within your support network, Jenny did a great job with the orientation and that sense of belonging and all of that. And hopefully this program reinforces those values as well. And so we had a quick anecdote, and then I'll kind of open it up for questions. But the other day in the session, we had a volleyball student athlete that we just did verification rosters were just due. And so we had to check credits, and to be more than an athlete, you have to stay above full time. And we kind of really drive that point home to our student athletes, because once they drop from full time, then they become immediately ineligible. And we have lists every single day that we check, that we constantly tell our student athletes to come talk to one of us if they notice that they've dropped a class. So after session, we had a volleyball player come over, and she was like, "Oh, I don't know why this class isn't here anymore." And first of all, I applauded her for have the conversation, because that usually means we haven't done anything in the class to be at that point. However, that was not the case. It was actually an error, and we took upon one of the things that we focused on that particular week was written communication on how to, the proper way to email your professor to make sure that, when you email a professor, it's your name, your course subject, because you can't just say, "Hi, I'm Sue, I'm in your class," right? We have to go through that in terms of what they actually need. So, and maybe that, again, if they just remember that, hopefully that we can continue to make those points in the future. So this is something too that I don't, in terms of programming, I think this is, unique to FLCC. I don't know of any other institutions within the region that are currently doing this. So, and again, I think having everybody's input and buy-in, I think that's the way it's successful, is to have the voice of the student athletes and the coaches in there as well. Questions?
How will you know that it's been successful?
Let's get to that.
So what we've been doing is, both with the coaches and the students involved, we do a benchmark survey to determine if they have received any life skill training, leadership training, experience training from any of the programs before arriving at FLCC. And if so, the nature of that training. So we're able to at least quantify previous experience before coming into this. Then what we do throughout is that we track attendance, we track engagement, we track a lot of the learning materials that we're using is also quantifiable. So we're able to tell what they're looking at, how they're looking at, and when. And then at the end, we conduct another survey to ask the students directly, what do you believe that you've learned from this? Do you believe that you've engaged any of this? And then on the other side of things, we already have quantifiable metrics for things like team GPA performance, team attendance performance, team completion rates, and things like that. So our primary hypothesis is just to see if they remember anything. That would be wonderful. And then after that, we can begin to look at quantifiable metrics to see just to what extent can we see how much this is working and how it has improved.
Well, thank you. First of all, congratulations. How long is this, maybe you mentioned that, been on campus, this particular program? Is it relatively new?
It is soft launch this fall, so currently right now.
Wow,
Yeah.
so brand new. What jumps out to me when I look at some of your modules, and again, from a leadership standpoint, emotional intelligence, that is, how do I say, unusual, maybe even rare in the leadership world in terms of its discussion. Some might say it's an acquired skill. And the other is decorum and civility. Again, two that, especially where we are today, maybe, at least in this country, those two subjects to me really jump off. I'm curious if this has been overlaid or considered in other elements of the campus. I know you're starting with athletics. What about the arts? What about other clubs or groups? Is there an opportunity? Has that discussion been had too soon? Curious.
Very much in the beta test phase right now.
Okay.
Wanted to see, because athletics is a captive cohort, they can't get far. So we're able to work with them and to see how it goes. If we attain any metric level of success, we would be thrilled to open this up to Student Life or any other organization that would love to work with it, because it's ours. We built it. So we don't have to worry about that. But phase one, let's see if they make it. And then phase two, let's see who else is interested.
And a follow-up, how's it been received initially? Again, I realize you're weeks, days into it.
I think it's very positive. I mean, I think that, I think there's a lot of engagement. Sometimes, it's not like we have a time where we're looking at blank stares a lot of times. But we try to balance it with some type of an activity. We show a video. We give them the platform to have back and forth dialogue. So those are my observations.
Students recognize the need for it, but are oftentimes lost on how to go about it. They understand that things like active listening or interpersonal communication are absolutely vital to the success of a team program. But beyond the title itself, they don't know how to go about doing it. So sometimes they're just as lost, saying, okay, I need this. I know I need this, but this is the first time that it's ever been presented to me. So I think there's a lot of absorption going on and a lot of engagement. And I think to the question from earlier, some of these metrics are probably going to come out 20 years from now. And I sincerely hope that I tell this to my esports students, that someday they will have a flashback of me when they're 45 and sitting in a meeting. Oh my goodness, he was right. Much longer term, but we're hoping to move in that direction.
And I think that, we said this in one of the sessions the other day, I think the student athletes, they know how to physically get better. They know, like, physical skills, technical skills, they all know what they need to do. They need to practice more, they need to be stronger, but they don't necessarily know how to get to that mental stage, those mental skills, those mental preparation skills. And so that's the pillar that we're really trying to get to, because the other two, I think they, kind of speaks for itself with the student athlete experience.
As you go down this path and you find success, I bet you will, the ability to capture that, and it becomes, in personal opinion, a recruitment, not only uniquely FLCC, but from the employment world. those of us that are looking for talent, the academics a piece, but the ability, as you say, to juggle. Because leadership may not be managing people, it could just be leading yourself as opposed to others. So it has a lot of tentacles to it. So congratulations. I think that the preparation there is really spot on, no matter what folks do in life. I think they really can be applied. So well done.
With the high quality of athletic teams that FLCC is starting to build, are any of the student athletes coming to you and asking about the transfer portal? Further their career in the athletics that they
Yeah.
pursue?
So I will say yes and no. Some of our, not a one size fits all answer, right? So some of our programs, yes, like some of our well-developed programs, they go into the transfer portal. They look for that next opportunity. Some of them will go and to get a scholarship. We're hearing more and more about it. We're hearing more and more transfer opportunities, scholarship opportunities. We don't really deal a lot with NIL at this level, but that's up there too with a lot of other kind of collegial, like athletic, discussions. But yeah, as they move forward and try to get, because it's, whether their goal is they play 2 years and they go into the workforce, or whether their goal is they go play at a 4-year institution, we want to help them on their path. And that depends on kind of what they want as a student athlete. And our coaches play an integral role in helping them get to that next level too. So yeah, that's that.
There might be in the future the ability to build that recruiting process with the 4 years to help transition some students who are highly skilled athletics and want to move on to the higher level of this career.
Yeah.
If I may, I have a quick story. I have a student that did 2 years of these reboot development camps, which is the prototype version of what we're doing here right now. She wanted to go to Keuka College. She graduated from here in elementary education. She wanted to go to Keuka College, so I immediately connected her with the esports director over at Keuka College. And the esports director from Keuka called me. He said, "How's her ability?" I said, "She's awesome. She cannot, play video games to save her life, but she went through 2 years of leadership training. She served on my leadership board for 18 months. She's received specific training in team communications, team planning, strategy and tactical planning, logistics and operations, technology, and she left Keuka College that day with a full ride scholarship because the director over there immediately saw that she doesn't have to be the best in the game, but she can help others be the best in the game, and that was more valuable.
Terrific. Great story.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Any other comments? Well, thank you so much for explaining that. So we have had a very full education planning committee meeting this evening. It's time to adjourn. Do I have a motion? Good. And trustee Adams, trustee Hood. They will vote to adjourn the meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, trustee Pollock. Trustee Margaret, finance and facilities.
Thank you, Chair. Yes. Hello and welcome to the October 1st Finance and Facilities Committee. We have minutes of about a month ago, November 3rd. Thank you, Penny. Any minutes, any questions, comments, or changes? So, read them all. Okay. Move on and look, maybe one more look at the 24-25, maybe two. Operating budget. We'll look back here and Jason, it's all yours.
Okay.
So, thumbs up. Great.
Go. All right, so revenues were pretty well set. I actually did get a surprise check the other day for $72,000 from AT&T for a lease on gym roof. So that will now be recognized in part of that will be recognized in 24-25. So
Bond revenue.
AT&T was a little slow in their payment process, so it goes back many years. So that number will be updated, will be charged in miscellaneous revenue. As we look at the numbers, tuition was up. Gemini was up 320,000. I had budgeted 1.9 million. It was actually 2.3. We were seeing some downward trend in Gemini, so I took that down a little bit, but it actually stayed around 2.3, which was flat from the previous year. Summer tuition, $500,000 increase from budget. That still stayed strong. When I look back at a couple of years ago, we were about 1.9. It still ended up around 2.3. So we had to pick up the number for tuition for summer. And then fall and spring, we did see a little bit of an increase in our FTEs for fall and spring last year. So that increased revenue slightly from where we were budgeting by about 260,000. So that's the main driver in the tuition line. All the other lines, next three lines have pretty much stayed consistent. The 1.5 is up because of some of what we saw in summer, fall, and spring. So that's mainly our technology fee that gets charged there for that fee. Other counties, again, as we look at the increased efforts in collecting CRs, we also had every county was represented at FLCC in the fall semester last year, so we continue to see that drive in counties. So that will continue that has increased compared to budget. Non-residents, again, that move when people don't hand in their CR to handing in their CR, that kind of shifts that budget. And then miscellaneous revenue, higher than budget. Reason for this, $800,000 in interest income was earned this year, budgeted 165,000. So don't know, interest rates are now starting to trend down, so I would expect that number to come down in the future. But last year we had anticipated rate decline that actually stayed pretty consistent. So that was one of the larger drivers. Nursing fees, online fees, and then grant indirects also play a factor into it. So online fees, again, as our summer classes, our coursework is mostly online, so that is where some of that revenue does get generated from. So
Questions on the revenue side? So I have one. The other counties is the other counties of New York State.
correct.
Out of state falls under non-residents?
Correct. Yep.
Out of state, out of country would fall.
Yes. Yes.
And roughly 2.5 million from what we budgeted to where we are today.
Yes.
Expenses, or you want to talk about the fund balance here?
Well, we can go to expenses and then we can talk about fund balance.
Okay, good idea.
Expenses, most expenses have been recognized. I still have to put in the payroll accrual from year end, and then as well as a compensated absence accrual that gets booked here. So that will affect these numbers in the next report, and I bring both 24-25 and 25-26 for the first month of the new academic year in the November meeting. So, but salaries and benefits, we've seen this. When I re-looked at what we presented in the board report, there's actually some instruction and support budget that actually gets pushed down into adjunct and overload. So those numbers look a little weird right now, but in the next report, we'll make sure that those get readjusted. But it does push some of these percentages into a different category. So, so we are on track. We landed pretty much within budget. Salaries and benefits, so a little bit below. That was mainly driven from vacancies that we experienced in our full-time faculty last year. We had 7 retirements beginning of last year, and some throughout the year. So, so we had some of that.
Questions on the expense side? So even after adjustments, about $1.5 million less?
Yeah, I mean, I would anticipate, probably adding, or 1.5 million in the salaries and benefits, yeah. So,
Fund balance?
fund balance, with those numbers, and some finalization, you know, I'm anticipating about a $1 million add to the fund balance, maybe 1 million to 1.5 million to kind of where the rest of these numbers fall, so.
Potentially a $4 million-ish swing
Yes,
from what's applied and what.
yeah,
It's healthy,
Yeah.
okay.
I think with those numbers put in, I was just looking at it, about a $14 million fund balance. At the end of the year, so.
This year's budget, bottom line is 50.
53 for 25, 26. So,
Questions? Income, revenue, expenses, fund balance? Anything else you might add on that?
just working through year end audit adjustments. Audit will begin the first week in December. So the engagement letter's been signed, to be able to come and start performing the audit. So gearing up for that. Closing up some grant stuff, related items. So indirects may pick up a little bit in here, but not too much more. Most of those have been recognized, so.
Resolutions.
Resolutions. First resolution is the approval of the tentative collective bargaining agreement between Ontario County Board of Supervisors, FLCC, and the Finger Lakes Professional Association. We finalized negotiations back in September, mid-September. EA ratified the tentative agreement within their membership 2 weeks ago. And then we've now bringing it to the Board of Trustees for approval as well. With the tentative agreement, we did fall within our financial parameters that were approved by the board last fall. Some other highlights as we talk about non-financial. We reduced the administrative appointment from 5 years to 4 years, as well as after administrative appointment, performance evaluations now performed every other year after administrative appointment versus prior to that was every 5 years. So we have worked in performance evaluations and annual goal settings or after administrative appointment. The medical side, we now, the college has the option to go self-insured. We did work language into the contract for the ability to go self-insured. And then we also introduced a high deductible health insurance plan with an HSA that will begin on 7/1/2026. Other language changes were emergency language change. We have some language around there to clarify when an emergency is happening on campus. So that language was added to the contract, and then also some language around graduation and clarification on graduation and nursing pinning ceremonies that require a PA membership to be there. So.
Question on that resolution? Before, after now?
I just would like to acknowledge John Van Blark in the back there, who is the leader of PA. And for the great teamwork, the interconnectedness, and the ability to work together to do things that are best for the PA and for the college. So we'd like to say thank you, John. I'm sure the Board of Trustees like to say the same in terms of how we're working together.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Performing Arts Center.
Performing Arts Center, so this is to renew our operational agreement that we have with CMAC, or Friends of CMAC, or CMAC. And this will renew it for another 10 years. This was an option to renew within the operational agreement. So.
Questions about? Yes.
Were there any significant changes to the?
No changes to the operational agreement, so.
Other questions?
We feel like the liability issues, I mean, were covered insurance-wise and so forth.
Insurance-wise,
10
we
years
did
ago.
check the insurance limits that we have in that agreement, they're good there. CMAC does pay for, or the Friends of CMAC pay for the utilities during the concerts. We are able to bill them separately for that. That's in the agreement as well. So,
Other questions? Any other resolutions?
I think, no other resolutions.
Informational items?
Informational items, we did accept the bid for the virtual welding equipment from Airgas. So this purchased 2 new virtual welding items or equipment using for the workforce program. So I think that price was actually lower than what we had paid for welding equipment a couple of years ago. So. The next one is our bid for snow removal. So, you know, as we enter October, we got to get snow removal contracts in place. So.
The transfer report.
Transfer report, there is one from the prior year that is in here as well. It's number 20. And then the others are just moving as we push the budgets out. There are some updates to those budgets that were submitted last May. As items changed within the department, so.
Questions, Jason, on the information? Anything else you want to add?
Government shutdown, so we are working through that. We are able to still draw our Pell and loan funds from G5, so there was some hesitation on if that would happen, but we did get clarifying language that we are able to do that. So be interesting to see, you know, what pushes out for a grant-related activity. Sometimes grants, they do push out notifications, but, you know, I think we're looking at how we continue those operations and go forward with those individuals that are funded by those grant activities. So continuing to look at that and monitor that very closely over the next couple of days here, so.
Any staffing updates in terms of search?
The director of facilities and grounds, that is going back out for a research. And the controller position, we did finalize or finish up first round interviews this week, so second round should start next week.
Any kind of high level facilities updates that maybe we don't really know about?
Facility updates, we just submitted our plans for next year, 25, 26. So we did submit that to SUNY last couple of days here. Still finalizing some of that. It was what we had presented last month to the board. So continuing to work through that, fine tuning those items as we get closer. Usually by December 15th is when we get that locked in for the state budget or any state match. So.
Other questions, trustees for Jason? You get the final word.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Great report.
We need a motion for adjourn?
Yes.
Please, a motion to adjourn. Thank you, everybody. Jeff, all in favor?
Aye.
Chairman Cass?
Thank you, Trustee Martin. I'd like to call the Board of Trustees meeting to order October 1st, 2025. So anyone on the lines?
No.
Thanks. We start off with a board resolution. I'm going to read it. First, I'd like to thank Trustee Mahalik for all the work she did on it, and Penny as well. Thank you very much. So it's a resolution that designates Margaret Hamlin as trustee emeritus. Whereas the Free Lakes Community College Board of Trustees has established a trustee emeritus policy to honor former trustees who have demonstrated exceptional service, leadership, and dedication to the college. Whereas although the trustee emeritus policy recommends a minimum of 2 7-year terms of service,
Board retains their discretion to nominate and designate individuals who have served fewer than 14 years if their service is deemed to be of distinguished merit. And whereas Barbara Hamlin was appointed to the FLCC Board of Trustees in 2012 and served with distinction for 11 years, including leadership roles as board secretary, vice chair, board liaison to the FLCC Association, and chair of the board development committee. Whereas during her tenure, Barbara Hamlin provided steadfast support for major college initiatives, including the redevelopment of the Geneva Campus Center, the opening of the Viticulture and Wine Center, and the creation of the Sands Family Center for Allied Health, as well as initiatives that enhance student life and strengthen community partnerships. And whereas Barbara Hamlin demonstrated exceptional leadership and engagement in board deliberations, consistently contributing insights and development expertise from her extensive career, civic, cultural, and nonprofit experience. And whereas her public service record beyond FLCC includes 12 years on the Canandaigua City Council, leadership roles in prominent arts and cultural organizations, and 9 years of service on the Wood Library Board of Trustees, where she co-chaired a successful $4 million capital campaign. And whereas Barbara Hamlin has continued to actively support FLCC following her retirement from the board, particularly through her involvement in community development events such as Dinner at Julia and Ventures and Valentine's. And whereas the FLCC Board Development Committee has reviewed and recommended this nomination proposed by Trustee Mahalik and with the support of Trustees Cushman, Guys, and Martin. Now therefore be it resolved that the Finger Lakes Community College Board of Trustees hereby confers the title of Trustee Emeritus upon Barbara Hamlin in recognition of her significant commitment, meritorious service, and outstanding leadership. Further be it resolved that this designation will be reported in the official minutes of the board and that Barbara Hamlin be extended the gratitude and congratulations to the entire FLCC community. And we will be voting on this shortly. So I'd like a motion to approve the consent agenda minutes and resolutions. Trustee Mahalik, Trustee Cushman. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. I have no old business. Anybody have old business? New business, there was a thing in the paper today. Didn't want me to talk about it, but I'm going to read it because it's very important. Jeff Astles, the Finger Lakes Community College trustee, was one of 4 trustees to receive the Donald M. Mawhinney Junior Trustee Leadership Award at the New York Community College Trustees 71st Annual Conference in September. Astles, who joined the Board of Trustees in January 2016, served as the Ontario County Administrator from 1999 until his retirement in 2011. Trustee Jeff Astles' vision and leadership have been instrumental in supporting FLCC's success for over 2 decades in his role as County Administrator and College Trustee. Our college, our community, and our students have truly been the benefactors of his service and leadership. Jeff was nominated for leadership in advancing $50 million in campus capital projects that have significantly enhanced student opportunities and community engagement. He was also the lead facilitator guiding the development and construction of the Constellation Brands Marvin Sands Performing Arts Center in collaboration with the county, the college, and the Friends of CMAC. I congratulate you.
Trustee Chair Katz, thank you very much for having me go after those 2 very distinguished announcements. Just wanted to highlight that you saw an announcement the other day. We do have a new Chief Human Resources Officer. We're really excited. Jonathan Wesley will start on the week of October 20th. And folks like Jen here are ecstatic to be able to take HR to even higher levels of greatness than what Jen and her team have achieved over the past couple of years. We're really excited. We do have lots of moves and changes going on. We lost Mary Beth Phillips, who was our grants writer, who we went from having almost no grants or very little other than the wonderful work that folks like Jim Hewlett were doing at the National Science Foundation to having millions of dollars of grants in each year being achieved. It's a big loss. And here's another one. Sean Marin is leaving the college to become the Associate Athletic Director at St. John Fisher University. But there's a good part to this story. My analogy that I've talked to some folks, we are like a AA baseball team. So if you know about baseball, okay, we're pretty good. But when people want to go out to bigger and better things, we're there to help springboard them to do that. And that's a great thing. So if they can go out to AAA or major league type of activities and it furthers their careers and gives them self-actualization, it's a wonderful thing. And they'll be connected. Mary Beth is still going to be connected and being the Work Investment Board Director. Sean's going to be a conduit for getting athletes to be able to go to St. John Fisher. There are a number of others like that, and we're going through a lot of searches. It's not fun sometimes. Change is hard, but at the same time frame, I think we have to understand we do have a constant that whatever analogy you want to put it, for a lot of our professional staff who start off and do great things and who are talented, we're going to be like that AA farm team, and that's okay. So wanted to just give you that analogy. Student success, I wish Michael and Annette were still here. I'm trying to give you my reports these days in terms of something out of our strategic plan, either student success, opportunity innovation, or community and business engagement. And then second, based on our values. And Michael continues to do a wonderful job of bringing more and more students into the esports program and then truly cares for those students to help them succeed and do great things. And if you really want to see it, something I've noticed a change. Oh, a tenor. Trustee Cushman talked about what's going to be like in the future, what are students like? Well, for what students are that are engaged at the college campus, the primary activity, if you walk around during the middle part of the day, during the lunch hour, right there at the student lounge that many of you were responsible for helping build, it's the esports students or the students that are just involved with esports. Their way of having fun and communicating is through the technology and the digital activities that are there. And it's interesting. Take one day and try to walk through a lunch hour period. I think you'll see something similar like that. In terms of vitality, I put down some numbers that we have. I would just like to say, from my perspective, this is my 10th fall. And based on the interconnectivity and the great leadership from all sorts of people across this campus, Jenny here will talk about how Dr. Ortiz was responsible for enlivening how students walked through the door on the first day of class, for instance, how they were treated, how they were able to do things. It was the best of my 10 falls that I've been here, and it's a testament to the teamwork and the leadership and of everybody here. And I say this a lot. I believe everybody at this college is equally important. Nobody's role is more important than anybody else's. It's how we try to do things together and create a synergy that's better than who we are individually or as an individual college. And so I just like to thank everyone that's here in this room for that work in this fall. Really wonderful effort. In terms of perseverance, we did receive another grant right as Mary Beth was going out the door from Mother Cabrini that will help in terms of bridging the opportunities for folks that need prerequisites and preparation for our healthcare programs that will be helpful down the road in the future. In terms of interconnectedness, Trustee George's favorite topic, second favorite topic in terms of activities, artificial intelligence. Two activities going on in the near future. One coming up on Friday. We have members of the college going to Genesee Community College to compare notes with 4 or 5 other community colleges from here to Jamestown on what we're doing in terms of artificial intelligence from all aspects, academic, operational, enterprise related, in terms of what we're doing. And I think what we're going to find is we're on the wave.
I appreciate your leadership.
So, it's a team effort.
I am for the whole Western New York, really.
It's a team effort. So, and then second, very important to let you all know, and you have this, it's the link. Here's some more flyers there for you that are here. We have an artificial intelligence conference linked to Manufacturing Week on October 21st. Bringing in Todd McLeese, who some of the trustees have seen before. Thank you to Dr. Orloff and Dave Nadeau and folks that are helping lead the way to shape that. And with Ontario Chamber again, to be able to be a leader in our community in terms of how artificial intelligence is going to shape how things go in the future as we continue to learn and how AI is going to work. So these are here for you. And speaking of accolades, Dave Nadeau is at a National Applied Consortium Conference on Artificial Intelligence hosted by Google. And it's first class of training and bringing leaders together who are working on artificial intelligence at the level of Google. So that's a real testament that when you find great people and they want to go do things, get the heck out of the way and let them do great things. And so we're excited he's there right now. And finally, I just wanted, and if you want more, this trifold is important to us. I call it our credentials. And so when you're out in the community, and if you want more, this tells about our graduates, how many graduates we have, the places they're going to college, post FLCC, and where they're getting jobs. Now, it's a snapshot of who takes the survey. It's 2024 because you have to wait a year to be able to get the information. But if you take a look at this, and if you want more, they're on the table. Well, actually, I'm going to pass them on what we did that, right? Take more if you want. This is something that you can pass out. Fred, thank you. You said you were putting up on your website in your township for what's out there, and that's a real testament to interconnectedness. Thank you. And Mr. Chair, subject to any questions, that's my report.
Thank you, Dr. Nine.
Oh, can I add one more thing?
Absolutely.
The digital, the virtual welding, those new machines, I didn't mention this in my report. We did start the program at Victor, so you have a connection to a high school, from a high school to a business, and from a business to the college in terms of what we're doing for our community. We actually started the same down in Penn Yan for Coach Bus Company. So a visit in late July has now resulted in a course going on down there. We received an email from the chief operating officer from Coach Bus Company that one of the employees going through was so excited to learn and wanted to go learn more. And the quote from the COO was, "You should take that and use that as an advertisement for what you're doing." So some really good things across the board going on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm just gonna build off of what Trustee Lawrence said. This should, be distributed to the Board of Supervisors.
We did at the last meeting that when we had the host.
And ask them to put it up on their website.
We'll do.
Yeah. The committee and liaison reports, no ad hoc, you know that. Student report.
Yeah, there was a student involvement fair on September 18th. There was over 25 student groups there presenting and over 200 students attended and connected. Student Corps, Jenny also mentioned that they started or they approved their first fully online student group, Legal Lens Society. The details are in the packet, but they will be studying real and historic trials in order to encourage critical thinking, foster respectful discussion, and promote thoughtful consideration of the role of justice in our society. And then Jenny also briefly mentioned that we are trying a new first generation college student mentor program. There's 64 students. We are trying to connect them with staff to help support in navigating their challenges, connecting their next steps, their planning, supporting their journey, and just feeling like they have someone on staff that they can connect to. And that's my report.
Thank you. Excellent report. Trustee Estles, audit and ERM.
Yes, Jason alluded to, the audit process has started. I think if he wants to crank all the way through it. But under that, the initial discussion that I found really interesting was talking about the fact that often the audit is more than just the numbers. And we got into a discussion about AI. And how we protect ourselves and how our depositors protect themselves. You know, from incursion generated by AI as opposed to individual. And it was just, I walked away thinking, okay, AI is really here because it's starting to permeate all kinds of different discussions. So, well, that'll be part of the discussion going forward.
Trustee Mahalik, Board Development.
We had our first committee meeting of the year earlier this month and in September. And thank you for passing the resolution for trustee emeritus. We also discussed the concept of the board sort of practicing more future focused leadership. And we recommended that the Board of Trustees read the book that we got, Trustee Cushman and Aisha received at the NYCCT conference that explains the concept much better than I think any of us could. And we're hoping that this will lead a discussion for us to provide some more opportunities for us to think about the framework for thinking about being future focused.
Thank you. I was unable to attend the association meeting. Trustee Guy's Foundation.
Golf ball drop is this month. What day, Bree? I forgot.
Saturday, October 11th.
Saturday, October 11th. So if you have not gotten your tickets, you still have an opportunity to do so. Okay, they're, what, $10 each?
Yes.
$10 each. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Mahalik, ACC.
Just a reminder that four of us are going up to the
Yeah,
ACCT.
we have several people going. We have, for the presentation, Professor Ken Carney, Dave Padu, myself, trustees, you and Trustee Cushman, I think, or
Yes, and
Fred's not going.
Oh.
And so where are you going? Where is it this year?
It is this year in New Orleans at the end of the month.
That's a tough location.
So,
Hurricane season. That's when the 4s and 5s hit.
Well, maybe we'll have a conference then. So have
sunshine there. Yeah, but they're all, these are force of nature.
so we will probably come back with more ideas.
Yeah.
What we can do. My term, I believe, as a member of the Member Communication and Education Committee is up. But you can reapply to be appointed to another committee, which I will be doing and send the form off to you prior to the conference. Done.
Your hand keeps going up, right?
I have found it to be very beneficial. I'm still hoping that we might be able to make a connection with a wine viticulture opportunity in France with the connection that I've made there. I don't know if that's still a possibility, but I'd like to be able to keep that.
Part of the strategic plan, opportunity and innovation.
So, that's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Cushman, NYCCT.
We just had our conference in Saratoga, honored Jeff among others, and really focused on governance, forward thinking. We really brought together both SUNY and CUNY, which was really made made for a different tone throughout the conference, I think. Looking at advocacy together, all governance, looking at how we govern and learning from each other. So it was appeared to be a very successful and I've deferred to Anna and Aisha, who were there. Any reflections that you have on?
I really enjoyed the roundtable aspect of it this year. I think it really let everybody learn from each other as opposed to just being presented at. So I really appreciated the conversation and the openness to listen to us students that were there.
I would just like to add that two things. One, this is probably in my 17 years of going to the conference of being affiliated with NYCCT, this was probably the most valuable and professional conference that we have ever had, much thanks to George and the executive committee. So there's a lot of work that went on behind the scenes. I think it was exceptionally productive and somewhat innovative. And I do think that it was on a par with any national conference I've ever been to. So I would like to thank the executive committee for that. And secondly, I would like all of you to know what a wonderful student trustee we had who showed her leadership skills with the group of student trustees who were there, sort of shepherd them along and got them to ask questions and to be comfortable. If she didn't know what was going on, she would ask George or I, and we would help them move on. But your student trustee, our student trustee, was an excellent participant and leader.
I can confirm that because I had a number of student trustees come up to me and say, your trustee is great. So.
Thanks for making me blush.
Student Corp?
Student Corp, the report is in there. It's a new year, new session. But kudos to Jenny Bertle, who does just a phenomenal job in preparing those students. And again, they do a lot of work that we to help support and make this college a true community. So hats off to them.
Thank you. Anyone else? May I have a motion? Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank all of you.